Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Lublin, one of the partners of Whitman Lublin Employment Lawyers in Toronto, and I have with me one of our senior associates, Ryan Watkins, another one of our employment lawyers at the firm. And we're delighted to be with you today to talk about what's probably one of the most important issues as it relates to severance packages in Ontario and Canada, which is health benefits and health benefits coverage. Something that our clients usually come to us with their most concerns about are how are their benefits to be handled on termination of employment, what to do, what are they entitled to, and so on and so forth. So we're going to spend a couple minutes with you today talking about this really important issue and how to deal with benefits. So let's start with health benefits in general. Ryan, what's the general rule on how benefits should be handled in a termination scenario?
Yeah, so for employees, your benefits should continue all the way throughout your severance package.
Okay, and what kind of benefits are we talking about here?
We're talking about all of your benefits, whether it be medical, dental, long-term, short-term disability, all of those benefits should continue.
Life insurance, AD&D, travel insurance. So the general rule is, just to summarize, is everything that you had while you were employed in terms of benefits should be continued for the entire duration of your severance package, as if you were still employed. And notwithstanding this general rule, what often happens when we see severance packages?
Well, we often see employers who say, "I'm not providing certain benefits or no benefits at all."
Okay, so we see shortfalls, and that's part of the problem. And one of the things that we can do for you as employment lawyers is identifying what some of those shortfalls are. So what would you say when it comes specifically to benefits is the most common shortcoming in terms of what's provided in the severance package? What happens the most often?
So typically, I see that an employer will feel comfortable providing medical and dental, but that's it. With respect to all the other benefits, they leave those out.
I agree with you. So I'll typically see in a situation where an employee receives a severance package, and that's what we're talking about here, where there's a severance package on the table, is a situation where employers will provide medical and dental coverage, and the other benefits that the employee had during the employment tenure, his or her benefits will cut off. So important things like life insurance, AD&D, which is accident, death and dismemberment, and disability coverage, which is critical insurance benefits, often cut off. And those will almost always be continued for the minimum statutory notice period, because that's what the Employment Standards Act of Ontario requires. But after that time, they cut off. So how, as an employment lawyer, do you deal with that situation where you see benefits continuing for not as long as they should be, or partial benefits continue? What steps do you take?
Well, the first thing I do is when I write a demand letter, I make sure that I include in that letter that everything should be included as if the employee was continuing to work there throughout that severance period.
Right. And what's another way to deal with that? So what if the employer comes back to you and says, certain benefits our insurance carrier won't allow us to provide? That's a common response that I'll see from companies, is they'll say, well, our insurance carrier will not permit the continuation of those benefits. So how do you deal with that?
Well, that might be the case, but under the law, that employer is required to at least provide the premiums for those benefits. So either the premiums or continue those benefits.
Right. So if the benefits can't be continued, what we should be doing is trying to find a way to monetize that loss. And the normal way to do it is to identify what the employer's cost was to continue those benefits, to get a dollar amount associated with that cost, and that should be added to the package. So frankly, if the employer's insurance provider will not allow the continuation of benefits for an individual on severance, that's fine, but we can identify what their cost is and have that dollar amount added to the severance package. Do you ever negotiate, your clients ever come to you and say, listen, I'm on a spouse's plan, I don't necessarily need these benefits, they've been offered to me, can we trade those benefits for compensation? Is that something that you would do in a severance scenario?
Yeah, of course. Like you said, those things have a dollar value to it. So why would an employee leave that money on the table
if they don't need the benefit?
If they don't need the benefit.
Right. And have you found that employers are amenable in negotiating out benefits for compensation?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So what happens in a scenario where somebody is hurt or injured following a termination and the employer hasn't handled the benefits in the way that we suggest is the proper legal way to handle it. So, for example, benefits have only been continued for part of a severance package, or critical benefits like disability have not been continued and somebody has a life-threatening illness or injury. So if that situation, God forbid, happens, what could you as an employment lawyer do? What does the law say?
Well, the law says the employer is on the hook for any illness that the employee has, and that could be significant. Like you said, if it's something like cancer or something like that where you need ongoing treatment, that can be significant. So I always make the employer aware when I'm writing a demand letter that those type of things, if not covered, could have a significant financial impact on the employer moving forward.
Right, essentially telling the employer or asserting to them that you'll be placing them in place of the insurance company because they haven't handled benefits correctly. And I often find in my own scenarios that that certainly has an impact, is very impactful in getting employers to come to the table and offer benefits that have been provided. So bottom line, Ryan, is how, as employment lawyers, what can we do to help people in severance situations where benefits are in play? What would you say is the biggest thing that we can do for them?
The biggest thing we can do is when negotiating an enhanced severance package is to ensure that the employee is getting their full complement of rights, including all benefits that they should be entitled to.
I agree with you completely. So number one, knowledge is power. If you don't know what you don't know. And if the benefits haven't been provided and you don't know that they should be, you're going to lose out. So it's always good to have an expert look at a package to identify for you where those shortcomings are. And frankly, I would say more than half of the severance packages I see don't line up benefits correctly. That's a staggering number, really. More than 50% of the severance packages that we'll see at this firm, benefits are not being continued for as long as they should be, or not all of the benefits are being continued. You know, we have a problem with that. These are a form of someone's compensation that they received while they were employed. The law says those benefits should be provided during the severance period, or they should receive compensation in lieu. Unfortunately, it's not happening as often as it should. So certainly as employment lawyers, we can identify the shortcomings and help people fill in those blanks. And do we have any questions? I see not. So thank you very much for your time. Really happy to be with you this afternoon. If you have any further questions or you'd like to talk to us about specifically any of the issues we've talked about today or anything else as it relates to severance scenarios, we're here to serve you. So you can get in touch with us either by calling our direct line, 416-640-2667. Find us online. We're at www.toronto-employmentlawyers.com, and we'd be happy to take any calls or questions from you. Thank you.
Thanks.